Got a minute or two? We have a way to make it not okay. Welcome to Sinister Minutes. I'm your host, writer and storyteller, Kurt Homer. Next to me is the master of macabre musical musings, the maestro of mood, Tim Parker. Together, let us take you on a journey into the dark heart of disturbing. Sinister Minutes. It's not okay. Sinister Minutes features tales that include disturbing content. That's intentional, because like the podcast itself, the creators here at Sinister Minutes are really not okay. Content featured on this podcast may include descriptions of abuse, addiction, alcohol, blood, bodily fluids, bondage, bones, bullying, burning, cancer, cannibalism, cheating, clowns, coma, confinement, control, cults, death, decapitation, depression, diet, divorce, domestic abuse, drowning, drugs, dying, eating disorders, epidemics, experimentation, family conflict, fear, fighting, fire, gaslighting, ghosts, gore, guns, harassment, hate crimes, hazing, homelessness, homicide, hospitalization, hostage situations, hostile work environments, illness, incarceration, infidelity, injury, institutionalization, kidnapping, manipulation, medical procedures, memory problems, mental health issues, military service, misogyny, murder, mutilation, needles, nightmares, nudity, pain, panic attacks, paralysis, physical abuse, pornography, physical assault, police brutality, poverty, profanity, religion, robbery, scars, screaming, self-harm, smoking, snakes, spiders, stabbing, stalking, starvation, substance abuse, suicide, terrorism, threats, torture, victim blaming, violence, war, weapons, weather, and maybe, just maybe, witches. Welcome to another episode of the Sinister Minutes podcast. In today's episode, we're taking a gamble, putting all our money on the right square, picking up and rolling the dice, and it's... What do you mean those aren't regulation dice? Of course they are. These are brand new, and... You play this game with six-sided dice? Only six-sided dice? Well, no wonder you call your game craps. Today's episode of Sinister Minutes opens up a story about a guy who's serious about his dice. Guest author Maurice Forrester steps up, rolls the bones, and throws us a tale called A Need for Disorder. What if life really is a game? Maybe even a crapshoot? Why not step right up and try your hand at something bigger? We take a chance on you, dearest listeners, with each new episode. We'd love to hear from you if you like what we're doing, but if you don't, we'd rather hear from you than see you in our yards bearing those pitchforks and torches. look us up on Facebook or Blue Sky or YouTube under Sinister Minutes. Shoot, send us an email via sinisterminutes@gmail.com. And if the stars align, won't you please subscribe? Sinister Minutes is available wherever you grab your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, seriously, wherever. A nice rating or review will always make us feel lucky. After the story, stick around for some lovely new music from Tim, a piece called Midnight Visit that will certainly leave you feeling the way we like to leave you feeling, namely, not okay. A Need for Disorder, written by Maurice Forrester, narrated by Kurt Homan. There were 14 sandwiches on the menu. Add in the various options, 20 drinks, 7 kinds of chips, 4 different cookies, along with the possibility of skipping any of the categories, and there were a lot of choices for Devlin to make. That was my reason for wanting to go someplace else, but it was his turn to choose. He picked the deli based on rolling some dice against a chart listing all the lunch spots within walking distance of the office. This was his new thing, to randomize as many decisions in his life as possible. Devlin had at least enough consideration for the rest of the lunch crowd to step aside while he rolled his dice and flipped his coins. 3 young women, knitting at a nearby table, watched while Devlin went through his ritual. He frowned at the results. Carolina Reaper jerk chicken sandwich, jalapeno chips, but no drink and no cookie. Nobody orders that sandwich, I said. It's a gimmick. You should re-roll. The shop sometimes ran commercials with people trying and failing to eat the sandwich. Tears and a runny nose didn't stimulate my appetite, and I wasn't going to choose any lunch randomly. I never re-roll, Devlin said. This is what I got, so that's what I'll order. It was obvious there'd been no re-rolling when Devlin dressed that morning. He wore navy slacks, a Hawaiian shirt in shades of brown, and red Converse sneakers. His coin flip must have come up as a no shave, and he'd been late for work because road construction and another coin flip led him to turn the wrong way down a one-wayed street. That wasn't in the rules, he explained when he finally arrived, ticket in hand. He just hadn't seen the sign before he flipped. Devlin's experiment had been going on for several months now. He alienated most of his co-workers with one eccentric choice or another. Last week, his shower or not coin flip had come up as a no for 5 straight days. That was the final straw for some. I was one of the few that still hung out with him outside of work. It helped that we were at different ends of the organization and the building. We didn't interact much in the office. Devlin was a programmer, I was in customer support. From what I heard, Devlin's random choices didn't impact his job. In his work life, he was as disciplined as ever. It was the very nature of his work, the rigid application of software algorithms to solve complex big data problems that led to what Devlin called his need for disorder. A ripple had run through the lunch crowd as soon as Devlin placed the order. I caught him glancing at my drink before he took the first bite. People at the tables near us were watching him. Is it worth it? I had my usual sandwich order in front of me. Devlin chewed slowly. His eyes were watering and he blew his nose into a napkin. Yeah, he said, it is. Look, I may have regrets now because of what I'm eating, but I'm also having an experience I would never have otherwise. How about the traffic ticket? Are you going to flip a coin to decide if you should pay it? Devlin took a smaller bite this time. Tears were running down his cheeks, and he was tapping his foot under the table. You sure you don't want a drink? Maybe some milk? It looked like it hurt him to swallow before he said, "I got what I got. Maybe I should flip a coin on the ticket. I didn't consider that possibility in my rules." Devlin had explained his rules at great length to a great number of people. Work was off limits, and he always paid his bills. The goal, he explained, was to have unexpected experiences. If he lost his job or his apartment or his car, he'd be too concerned with survival to enjoy those experiences. "You should probably think of it like a bill you have to pay," I said. "Bad things can happen if you don't." "That takes a while, though," Devlin said, "and I can pay the fine when I have to. In the meantime, I might get the experience of seeing that process play out. You think they'll issue a warrant?" "I guess that's how it works. I try not to get tickets at all." Devlin fished the $50 he favored for coin flips out of his pocket. "I'm going to do it. Heads I pay, tails I don't." "Damn!" The voice came from one of the young women knitting at the table near the door. "Dropped a stitch." "Tails," Devlin said. "I guess I'll find out what happens." He finished the sandwich and got a round of applause as we left the deli. A few days later, we were having lunch at a pizza spot I picked out. No coins were flipped. No dice were rolled. The place only had a couple of options ready to go, so I thought it would be simple. For me, it was always 2 slices of pepperoni. I underestimated Devlin. "How many slices in a whole pie?" he asked. The answer was 8. Devlin spilled a bag full of dice on the counter and poked through them. There were different sizes, different shapes. Some were solid colors, some clear, many were speckled or marbled. He found an 8-sided die, gold with swirls of red, to determine how many slices of mushroom pizza he was going to eat. He rolled an 8. I tried to help him out after I finished my 2 slices. "Is that how many pieces you'll eat, or how many you will buy? You could get a box and take some of that back to the office. Have lunch for a couple days, or just leave it in the break room. It'll be gone in seconds." "Nope," Devlin said. He was slowly working on his 3rd slice. "I rolled for how many slices I would eat for lunch now, not how many I would buy." "You better be careful you don't drop any of that cheese." Our office had a business casual dress code. Nobody really knew what that meant, but polos and khakis were most common. Devlin was wearing a black suit. "I haven't worn this suit since the funerals." I knew which funerals he meant. Devlin was an only child born to an older couple. His father died about a year ago, and his mother passed a few months later. He wasn't one to talk about his emotions, but you could tell it was a sensitive area. "Sorry," I said. "Didn't mean to bring that up." "It's okay. They're part of the reason I'm doing this. Dad was an accountant for 40 years. Same firm the entire time. Same 2 weeks in the Adirondacks in the summer. Bought a new car every 4 years, the same make every time. Mom was like that too. You didn't need a calendar. Just see what she is serving for supper." "Some people like that." "Some people settle for that," Devlin said. He pulled out his favorite $50 and set it on the table. I'd seen him flip it many times, but never looked at it up close. It was old and not the design I expected. "Is that coin special?" I asked. "It's a Franklin $50. From 1948, the year Dad was born. He carried it every day and said it brought him good luck. Does that sound like good luck to you? You work 40 years doing the same thing every day until you retire and die?" My own parents were getting old, and I didn't want to dwell on that topic. I nodded toward a table at the far side of the room. "You see those 3? He glanced at the 3 dark-haired women who were knitting at the table. "What about them?" "We keep seeing them around town. Always knitting. Always dressed in white. It looked like they were collaborating on a long, colorful scarf, but they were crowded together. Their hands and knitting needles moved quickly, and I couldn't understand how they were collaborating. "That's what I'm talking about," Devlin said. A half-eaten fourth slice of pizza was in his hand, but he seemed in no hurry to bring it to his mouth. "Your mom knitted?" "Nope, needlepoint. But that's not what I mean. People getting into a rut, always doing the same thing. That was my parents. Those three are young, but they're on the way to the same sort of life. So are most of the people we work with. Always doing the same thing, never changing. Like me. I had a routine, and I liked it. It conserved my mental energy for those rare times I really needed it." Devlin shrugged and studied the remaining pizza. "But not you." "No way. I've got a new idea. I'm going to roll to see which of those three I ask out." "You think you'll get anywhere after they see you eat a whole pie wearing a business suit?" Devlin pulled a handful of dice from the pocket of his suit coat and rolled an oddly shaped die labeled 1 through 3. "What have I got to lose?" he said, peering at the result. "It's going to be the one in the middle." "Hey, you crossed your stitches." The woman who spoke was the shortest of the three and sat at the far end. Devlin was dressed normally on Monday. He wore khaki slacks, a green company polo, and brown leather shoes. Lunch at a coffee shop near the office wasn't anything strange. I saw him roll the dice before ordering, so he was still randomizing his life choices. It was just for that day. The choices were perfectly ordinary. It was so ordinary that we struggled to find anything to talk about. Finally, I said, "I haven't seen those three knitters around town today." Devlin glanced around the room. "Guess not. I did see Lacey over the weekend. That's her name." "Yeah?" "We had coffee here Saturday morning. Met up again for dinner." "You going out again?" "I don't think so," Devlin said. "I didn't like the way she acted." "Not even a coin flip on that one?" Devlin shook his head. "She ordered for me. Everything. Coffee, dinner, drinks. That's weird. I mean, it was all the sort of things I would have ordered before I started this project. It wasn't like I didn't like what I got, but it kind of flies in the face of what I'm trying to do." "So does you not flipping a coin to go out with her again." I was so used to Devlin's random choices that a normal decision seemed shocking. "I know," he said, "but it felt like I was taking a chance on ending the experiment. I don't want to do that. Anyway, I flipped the coin for something else." He slid the Franklin $50 across the table to me. "What's that?" "I flipped to see if I would keep that coin or give it to you. Tails, so you get it." "I can't take that. It's your father's lucky $50." "It's important to me that you take it," he said. There was a catch in his voice. I pulled the coin a little closer, but left it on the table. If it mattered that much, I could put the coin away until the experiment was done. "Today turned out kind of ordinary," I said. "That's the way the dice fell. Maybe it's good because it reminds me of why I wanted to mix things up." "But how can you really mix things up anyway? What choices do most of us make in an ordinary day? You end up with some interesting outfits and lunch choices, but what else?" "So you're saying I should take more chances, allow for more choices. That's not. Heads, I go out tonight. Tails, I stay home." I started to push the $50 back across the table, but Devlin shook his head. "I got a quarter for this flip." "Are you sure? It's a Monday night, dude." "Heads, help me make a list of places I could go. Up to 100 to keep it manageable." "Is the library open tonight?" "That's one." The next morning brought an email from Devlin saying he was taking a sick day. When he came in on Wednesday, his face was marked by cuts and a black eye. "Lunch today?" I was hoping to hear the story of what happened. Devlin had gone through a long series of coin flips after breaking the coffee pod selection into a binary decision tree. He ended up with a decaffeinated flavored coffee that smelled like gingerbread. He made a face at every sip. "I can't," he said. "I have to go buy some dice." "I didn't think you needed any more dice." "Well, I do." Devlin turned to study the family leave poster on the break room wall. "You want to tell me what happened?" "I just lost my dice, that's all." "And got a black eye. So are you ready to give this up?" "Nope. I'm going to buy more dice. I flipped a coin on that this morning." It was pretty clear that Devlin wasn't ready to open up about what happened. I tagged along as he went to a nearby game store to shop. He seemed to come back to life in the store as he reviewed the colors and multi-sided options. I had no idea there were so many choices. I wasn't sure how he was going to carry them all around, but then he added a shoulder bag to his order. "What do you even need dice for?" I asked as we walked back to the office. "Can't you just run some random number generator thing on your phone?" Devlin snorted. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to generate true random numbers?" "I guess not." Devlin took a deep breath, and I knew a lecture was coming. For the rest of the walk, he treated me to the history of the computational challenges in true random number generation, along with digressions into entropy, thunderstorms, lava lamps, and other stuff that finally faded into background noise. We walked past a coffee shop, and there, watching from the front window, were the three women knitting. The patterns in the scarf almost looked like faces. Devlin was out of the office for the next 3 days. The first day, he didn't communicate at all. Friday, he sent a message saying he was working from home. Monday, he was taking a vacation day. He sent me an email that said, "Rolled a 6, a 3, and a 5 the last 3 mornings. I'm expanding my choices, taking some new risks." After that, he stopped communicating at all. Someone from the development team asked me if anything was wrong with Devlin. "More than usual, I mean," was how they put it. "No," I said. "The last year or so has been tough, and he's trying some new things. He'll get it figured out." I wasn't so sure about that, but it seemed like the right thing to say. That night, I lost sleep, worrying about him. By Saturday, I decided I needed to act. I headed across town to Devlin's place. "Just to check in," I said. He lived in a small apartment complex in an inner-ring suburb. I'd only been there a couple of times, once when Devlin's car was in the shop, and once when he needed a ride for a medical appointment. I did a quick circle around the parking lot to confirm his car was there. Devlin answered the door wearing sweatpants and a NASA t-shirt. His hair was disheveled and his eyes baggy. He blinked and rubbed his eyes as if trying to get me to come into focus. "Did you see him?" "Who?" I stepped inside and saw the apartment was messy with takeout containers stacked on the tables and clothes heaped on the floor. "Those knitters, the women." "You mean the women we've seen knitting downtown? Why would they be here?" I don't know, but they are." Devlin paused to peek out the window. "They were in a car, all 3 in the back seat, and knitting." "No, I didn't see anyone. The women were slim, but 3 people knitting sounded like it would make for a crowded back seat. I didn't see any reason to bring that up." They were there when I went out for Chinese. That was a lot of rolling to figure out what I was getting and from where. Want to see the tables I had to make?" "Maybe later," I said. "Could be one of the women lives here, or maybe a friend." Devlin shook his head violently. "One of them got out of the car. Not Lacey, the one I went out with. The short one. She said I had to take better care of myself. Said they didn't want anything to happen to me before it was my time." "That's weird. Are they stalking you? Think you should report it?" "I flipped a coin for that. Came up as no." "You can't randomize calling the police on a stalker." "Oh, yes, I can," Devlin said, "and I did. I'm serious about this, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life doing the same thing over and over. If it all turns out bad, well, at least I didn't stagnate. I stuck around for a little while and did some surreptitious cleaning when Devlin's back was turned. I asked when he was coming back to the office, and he insisted he was getting everything done from home. All he really wanted to talk about were his ideas for new things he could randomize. When to work, where to work, if he would work. All were up for randomization. Even simple decisions like his morning routine had grown into massive decision trees that could be randomized using a vast collection of dice in many shapes and sizes. On my way out of the parking lot, I thought I saw the three knitters. I slammed on the brakes, which got me a horn blast from another car. When I looked again, the women weren't there. Devlin stopped doing any work. His last email said he was seeking more challenges. I tried to reach him by phone, text, and email. There was no response. When I stopped by his apartment, I found a paint crew inside. Moved out, they said. Left a lot of crap here, and we had to have his car towed. When the foreman mentioned how many months were left on the lease and asked some pointed questions about my relationship with Devlin, I made up an excuse and split. The company moved on. A new developer was hired, and she was almost as talented as Devlin without antagonizing the rest of the team. I started going to lunch with other people and applied for some new jobs. I felt bored without Devlin around to liven things up. On my last day at the company, a group of us were picking up lunch. I was asked if I wanted soup or salad with my sandwich. I thought of Devlin and reached into my pocket for the Franklin $50. From the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the three women knitting in the corner and watching me. One of them picked up a fresh skein of yarn. For just a moment, I was certain I saw the image of Devlin on their scarf. I stared directly at the women and flipped the coin. Midnight Visit, composed and performed by Tim Parker.
Sinister Minutes is presented by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. The musical score was composed and performed by Tim Parker. Our production team consists of Kurt Homan and Tim Parker. On behalf of everyone here at the Sinister Minutes podcast, namely Kurt Homan and Tim Parker, we thank you for listening, for joining us as we explore all the ways in which we are not okay. This audio program is copyright 2024 by Kurt Homan and Tim Parker under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.